Drive Live Formula One.
Hello and welcome back to the Styrian Hills. First practice out the way. Ahead of us, FP2 at the Red Bull Ring. All building up to Sunday's Austrian Grand Prix. A short, sharp lap. Track limits is watched like a hawk. Upgrades galore from the front to the back of the field, and sweltering conditions to deal with as well. And after a fairly innocuous FP1, we had several rookies out in the field and some slow starts for the likes of Red Bull and McLaren's Lando Norris. I think there's some catch-up work to do for the next hour or so, and we'll talk you through all of it as it happens. Up in your commentary box is myself, Harry Benjamin, the BBC F1 correspondent Andrew Benson, and racing driver Abby Eaton are alongside me. And Abby, this is a fun track. You've raced here in W Series, 10 corners, but it's not really.
Yeah, well, it's 10 for us as drivers and 7 for Andrew Benson. But yeah, it's a fantastic circuit, flat out straights, heavy braking zones, and some beautiful scenery to go with it.
Yeah, it certainly is. As I say, in the Styrian Hills, this just over 4.3 kilometre track, technically 10 corners, 3 that go to the left and 7 that go to the right. But it's a quick lap as well, demanding as well. Need good grip at low speed, strong performance through the high speed sectors. But you've got to watch out for some aggressive curbs as well. Turns 1, 6 and 7 all being watched for that, where you are almost invited to run out wide. If you do put all 4 wheels over the white line, your lap is deleted, and so is the next one if you do it out the final corner, which could become a real issue when we head to qualifying on the Saturday. But at the end of FP1, Abby, really it was the 2 Mercedes who were ahead of the field, and not much splitting Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. Are they the favourites this weekend?
I think they're looking strong again. I think we expected them to be strong. Obviously, a lot of eyes will be on the Ferrari, given the win of Hamilton last time out. But yeah, I think Mercedes have hit the ground running again.
Well, we'll see, with some upgrades planned as well for this weekend. Mercedes bringing a few bits to the front suspension and the engine corner. But of course, all the talk really, Abby, is off the back of Barcelona, with Lewis Hamilton taking that incredible first win for Ferrari, or in his Ferrari career, and the sort of bounce in his step that could give him coming this weekend. And crucially, upgrades for the car as well.
Yeah, I think he's got a spring in his step again. I don't think it's something that's happened overnight. It's been brewing through this season, and the win has only solidified his comfort, his confidence in the car, and also with the team. It wasn't just down to Lewis, the win, it was also down to strategy from Ferrari. Again, a cheeky pit stop under the virtual safety car helped solidify that, but actually I think even without the safety car stop there, I think he would have won outright pace.
Yeah, well, huge upgrades for them. 8 bits and bobs brought to the aero and the chassis side in Barcelona, and making use of that token under the catch-up mechanism that's been introduced for this year, Adjuo, the additional development upgrade opportunity on the engine side. Ferrari almost anticipating they would get one, which is why they're able to bring an engine upgrade so quickly. We'll see what Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc can do here at the Red Bull Ring. He wasn't in FP1, he stood aside for Dino Beganovic, as did a few other drivers. We're currently getting a glimpse at the Racing Bulls driver Liam Lawson, who's back in the car. He was replaced by reserve driver Ayumu Iwasa, and Nico Hulkenberg back in the Audi 2. Paul Aron, the Estonian on loan from Alpine, was in the seat for FP1, and at Williams we had Alex Albon out there in FP1 alongside Luke Browning. Luke steps aside, and Carlos Sainz is welcomed back into the car, although it doesn't look like Mercedes, Abby, are going anywhere anytime soon, particularly on George Russell's side of the garage.
Yeah, interesting, because during free practice 1 they looked like they had pretty decent solid runs, decent amount of laps, so potentially some reliability issues rearing its ugly head there for George.
It was a tough start for Red Bull, with Max Verstappen having some issues with his clutch. Tried several times to get out of the garage and then kind of conked out in the slow lane of the pit lane, and then had to be wheeled back. Eventually got going again, and Isaac Hadjar, a very slow start to the session, didn't get out until about half an hour in. The same was said for Lando Norris at McLaren. While they fixed the hydraulic leak, didn't get him out till the last quarter of the session. So crucial lap time missed out on. How much does missing a session like that put you on the back foot?
It kind of keeps you a little bit out of the rhythm. You know, the biggest thing, especially on a track like this, you need to get into a good rhythm. You need to feel that momentum and have consistency lapping the car, especially with the development and the upgrades that, for example, the Red Bull cars got on it this weekend. Now, you want to be testing these things out. You want to be understanding perhaps where the positives have come, where you may be lacking some now because of the upgrades, and also just seeing how the car performs at this time of day in the temperature conditions as well.
Yeah, we mentioned heat hazard has been declared in FP1, so that will be throughout the whole weekend with temperatures exceeding 31 degrees. So for those who wish to use it, the drivers wear a cooling pack underneath their overalls. You don't have to use it, but if you don't use it, you get 5 kilos of ballast to make sure you don't have any kind of competitive advantage. And air temperature right now, 31.5 degrees. Track temperature, scorching 51 degrees. So it is only going to get hotter throughout the weekend. But you've heard some engines fire up. We are back on track for free practice 2. And for those who wish to sync up, it's coming at you now. 58 minutes and 50, 49, 48, 47 seconds, and out on track straight away. The Audis are not messing around. Nico Hülkenberg, Gabriel Bortoleto first out the blocks, followed by the 2 Alpines. Colapinto ahead of Gasly, Liam Lawson, Lewis Hamilton, Sainz, Albon and Hadjar emerging out onto the track now as we get a look at Nico Hülkenberg in his Audi heading uphill towards turn 1. I think what catches a lot of people out, well, Nico Hülkenberg, turn 1 certainly catching him out, locking up the front right and running wide immediately, which so many do. But for Nico Hülkenberg, who we did see in FP1, my apologies, it was Bortoleto who we didn't see. But for Hülkenberg and for Audi, demonstrating there what isn't always clear cut to see if you're watching on the TV is the elevation change here at the Red Bull Ring. It's actually huge.
Yeah, if you go out and try and walk up to turn 1, you'll be a little bit breathless by the time you get there. It's a really, really steep hill on the way up to turn 1, which it actually helps with slowing the car down. So your braking point into turn 1 is super, super late. Really nice hard stand on the brake pedal. In comparison to that, when you go into turn 3, or as you look at it, it's turn 2, the next right hander you get to. Again, a little bit of a gradient there, but not as much of a run up into that as in turn 1. On the other end of the spectrum there, into turn 4, it's downhill. So you have to be braking a lot earlier, be a little bit more conservative with making sure you've got the right speed on entry. Otherwise, you can get a lot of push or even a snap of oversteer, which we saw from a couple of the cars in free practice 1.
Pushing hard straight out the blocks, Lewis Hamilton, I think I spied on the medium tyre, Pirelli bringing the softest rubber here. Albon radio.
I've got no power. Yeah, so I need to box this now.
No power for Albon as Williams continue to get plagued by various issues. They had such a tough time in Barcelona. It was always going to be a track that exposed every weakness possible to a car, but certainly on Albon's side of the garage, really feeling it as he comes back into the pit lane. This is the sound of Hamilton heading into turn 1 and then backing off.
Just a little bit unsettled over the curbs on entry, it looks like.
So pretty much everybody out there then, with the exception of Albon, who's come back into the pits. No Perez, who had issues, stopped out on track at the end of FP1. Arvid Lindblad and George Russell, whose car we saw up on the jacks at the start of the session with some work going on. We'll try and get to the bottom as to what's happening down on Russell's car, whether that's planned or if they're trying to fix an issue. His teammate, though, who leads the Drivers' Championship, Kimi Antonelli, the 19-year-old, is out on track, heading uphill towards turn 4. 156 points. He has, turn 3, I should say, has 156 points to his name. 41 points clear of Lewis Hamilton, who sits second in the Drivers' Championship. George Russell third, a further 9 points back. Then it's Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris, the top 5 in the Drivers' Championship. Over in the Constructors, it's Mercedes who lead the way. 262 points. They are 72 clear of Ferrari. Then it's McLaren, Red Bull and Alpine, the top 5. The fight in the midfield between Racing Bulls, Haas, Williams and Audi between 6th and 9th, with Aston Martin a point on the board in 10th and Cadillac yet to get off the mark, down in 11th spot. But Cadillac are actually bringing a huge raft of upgrades this weekend, which they're hoping will find them a couple of tenths of a second in terms of performance. So not great news if you're Aston Martin on that front. who continue to struggle and aren't bringing any upgrades for a few races yet.
It'll be tricky for the Aston drivers to, I suppose, as drivers, we're impatient. We want to be improving all the time, and they will be salivating for an upgrade when they're able to. And I know that there is planned a big upgrade coming for Spa for Aston Martin, but yeah, Alonso and Stroll will be kicking their heels a little bit and waiting for their opportunity to hopefully find a bit more pace from that car.
Yeah, and on Cadillac, Harry, Checo Perez had some problems in the first session. He stopped on track to bring a red flag out to bring an early end to the session, and they've just said on their WhatsApp chat group that his car has had an ECU change between sessions, and will be back on track soon.
Thank you very much for that insight, Andrew.
It's going a bit far to call that insight, Harry, but thank you.
Well, I always like to upsell.
It is my job to provide insight. I just wouldn't categorise that as it. But
I was informed of that, so thank you very much. Actually both Cadillacs now out onto the circuit. One thing we promised die-hard listeners in FP1. Well, let's hear from Verstappen first.
It's completely different in the car. What the is this?
Oh, no, Max, is it something you'd need to box for?
After this lap, Max, I lay down a lot. I don't know what's going on.
So Max Verstappen not happy with his seating position in the car.
That's the worst feeling as well as a driver. Your seating is so critical. Your position in the car is so critical to feeling comfortable with everything else. And that seat may potentially just be out, probably by a centimetre. Maybe it's just not lying in the way it should do, and it will throw everything out. You'll pick up on it straight away, just as Max has done.
Well, we saw that, didn't we, in Canada with Fernando Alonso, who had a seating position problem which led to him retiring from the race. Now, to be fair, he did say, if I was leading, I probably wouldn't have retired, but being at the back with no points. But the point was, he was in a lot of discomfort just because, and the issue was that because it had so little running, he'd not had long enough in the car to realise the impact of this new seating position that they've got, which is a bit more laid down in this year's Aston Martin. They're always trying to get the C of G, central gravity, as low as possible. And he discovered in Montreal, which is quite a bumpy track with lots of big braking zones, that it was leading to some pressure points on his body in various places, and they had to play with the seat to get that fixed at the next race in Monaco. So it just goes to show there's probably a similar sort of thing for Verstappen. It's just something very slightly out of whack, and of course they wouldn't change very much on Alonso's seat, just a little tweak here and a little tweak there, just to if you think about where your body position is, they're based, I don't know what the degrees your back is at, but what is it, like 45 degrees, 50 degrees, something like that. It's crazy. And then feet up in the air. It's no wonder if you're being subjected to more than 5G every time you hit the brakes, and 4G, 5G round corners, that you're going to get an issue if you're very slightly out in the positioning.
It's basically like laid in a bathtub. It's that kind of a vibe. And actually, when you first sit in a seat, and making a seat will take hours and hours, it's something that really is critical to, as we hear from Perez.
I had the same. Copy that. Slow in.
So it looks like ECU change hasn't solved the problems for the Cadillac from FP1. So we've got a yellow flag track hazard, which is probably Perez.
Yeah, I think he's stopped on the exit to 6. And he's pulled onto the side of the road again. And
I think they're going to have to red flag it for a bit, aren't they, to get rid of that car?
A virtual safety car. They'll try and do it under that instead, which has come out. Perez just stuck their motion as well off the track, but should hopefully, if the marshals need to come and collect it, wheel him back, or if he can get it restarted, ideally the latter, they can try and fix it straight away.
I didn't see, Abby, you might know, having driven around it, had he stopped just in front of a gap in the barrier there?
I'm not sure where he's pulled.
I know he's further on the exit of.
I might. There's some marshals coming down now, but
I can't see a barrier gap.
I think there is.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
But is it big enough? That's the question.
The thing is, he won't want to be put in there, will he?
No,
he wants to get the car back to the pits.
No, it's very. Obviously this is radio, but the green screen doing its work there.
I need to box. I need to take my seat out. It's just lazy.
Okay, understood.
So Verstappen wants a new seat, so he's going to use this opportunity to come in to the pits. So trouble then for one Cadillac in the form of Sergio Perez, who stopped out on track. We did hear and see some radio from Valtteri Bottas and the other Cadillacs, and there was something that was hitting him on the elbow, which he's not used to in the cockpit of the other American outfit. So both Cadillacs then with a clunky start to Friday in Austria.
And just to continue on from when we were discussing about the seat and feeling comfortable in the seat, when you first sit in it, for 10 minutes you won't feel a problem, but when you've done a good few laps and you're under those G-forces and you're really physically being thrown around the car, you will start to feel those pressure points very, very quickly. And it's the difference to being able to perform at a top level to, if it's really giving you jip whilst you're driving, you could be dropping a few tenths a lap, which obviously every tenth is super important when you're in the fight.
Certainly is. 49 minutes, 28, 27, 26 seconds left to run of FP2. Virtual safety car is out to try and rescue Sergio Perez's stricken Cadillac. George Russell with a bit of a late start to FP2. They were putting the bodywork on, and I wonder if there was an issue going on there. Mercedes haven't said anything. They've only said that the car is ready and imminent to go out, as Sergio Perez now has been rescued by the marshals, but it looks like it's going to be no running for the Mexican in this second practice session, unless they can get that car back to the pits somehow, but I'm not sure there's a route there. No.
It's pushing to the inside of the circuit.
Yeah, I think that car will be there until the checkered flag, and Perez will have to go the long way home. On the other side of things, Lando Norris, having missed 45 minutes of the hours running that we had this morning, straight out on track for FP2. Fastest time so far, a 1 minute 8 dead, 2/10 clear of his teammate Oscar Piastri, both 6 laps apiece on the medium tyre. Kimi Antonelli 3/10 adrift of Norris in third, Hamilton fourth, with Hadjar the top 5, Verstappen, Lawson, Hulkenberg, Gasly and Behrman the top 10, with Bortoletto, Leclerc, Colapinto, Sainz and Bottas the top 15, Ocon, Alonso, Stroll and Albon had set a lap time, but it's miles off the pace. That's before he lost power and came in, so we haven't really seen what he's got. Same for Perez, he's now out. Lindblad was still in the pits, hasn't been out, and the same for George Russell.
Interestingly enough, we just saw Max Verstappen's seat being taken out there, and all hands on deck to find what the problem is. And to have a problem that's so severe he needs to come in and take the seat out, it will be something trapped underneath the seat. So basically the seat will sit inside the cockpit of the car, and if there's something just wedged underneath it, it throws everything out of line. Would
that have changed in between FP1 and now?
They might have had the seat out for some reason, just to get to certain things down there. And as I mentioned, all it takes is a centimetre, if that, slightly higher on one side, and everything else will feel strange.
Now feels like a good time to bring up the conversation I was teasing so much of in FP1, Andrew, about the outcome, or the ongoing outcome, of the Monaco Grand Prix. And the latest on Pierre Gasly currently has the podium, and who's trying to appeal it, who's given up, and what more we know.
Yes, so we know there were 5 drivers were given pit lane speeding penalties, and Gasly actually got 2 in the Monaco Grand Prix, and none of them broke the pit lane speeding limit. Mercedes have the worst affected driver was George Russell, who lost 3rd place and got converted into no points for 12th. But Oscar Piastri and McLaren and Red Bull's Isaac Hadjar have also been negatively affected. Mercedes have dropped their appeal or their right of review because they didn't think they couldn't see a way within the rules to get redress. But McLaren and Red Bull have applied for it to be heard by the FIA Court of Appeal. We haven't got a date for that yet, and in fact we haven't got an absolute confirmation that McLaren are going ahead with that appeal, because the final deadline is not till tomorrow. But basically Formula One's got itself in a massive pickle over this situation. The pit lane distance was measured incorrectly in Monaco by 77 centimetres. It was possible to drive a shorter distance than the measurement said, and because the pit lane speed limit is policed by a driver's the time he takes to go through a series of timing loops as opposed to a speed gun. If obviously speed being distance over time, if your distance is too long, then your speed limit is going to be calculated incorrectly. So it's obviously a very unsatisfactory situation that, first of all, drivers are penalised for things they didn't do wrong, and secondly, that one driver has had redress for his penalty, but that's come at the detriment of 3 other drivers. I don't know how they're going to unpick it, because, as I said, Russell's the one who was affected most badly. Russell was ahead, basically, of Piastri, Gasly and Hadjar, or Piastri, Hadjar and Gasly, I can't remember. But the question is, what do they do when they get to the Court of Appeal? Okay, it doesn't seem right that Gasly's in 3rd place and Piastri's not ahead of him in 3rd place, because he was ahead of him before he served his penalty and Gasly didn't serve his penalty, and Alpine chose not to serve the penalty because they could see that there was something wrong. Russell was pleading with the officials in the red flag period in Monaco not to serve the drive-through penalty that he'd been awarded for not correctly doing the penalty when he stopped under the safety car just before the red flag, because he could see something was wrong, and they ignored his pleas, gave him the drive-through anyway, and so he's suffered. But it's a bit like Abu Dhabi 2021. The officials have screwed it up between themselves, but how do you fix it? In terms of sporting fairness and competitive integrity, the current result with Gasly 3rd, Piastri 4th and Hadjar 5th is not right. But what is right in this circumstance? What do they do? I think the bigger picture here is that, okay, they've made a mess of it, I don't think the stewards themselves since Monaco have done anything wrong, in that there weren't really pathways for them to address it further under the Gasly right to review, because that was the thing that was in front of them, and I think they knew by the time they were hearing that McLaren and Red Bull were going to appeal, so they didn't open it out to the other teams, which kind of makes sense. Also, it's questionable whether they have the power to. What's the bigger concern, I think, really, and for a lot of people, the teams involved in particular, is that the teams flagged this issue with the FIA a number of times over the Monaco weekend. The FIA, to be fair, did go to Formula One, who are the people who do the timing loops in the pit lane, and asked them if there were any problems. And they were told there weren't. So when it came up in the race, when the 3rd penalty came up in the race, the stewards went to race control and said, something's fishy here, what's happening, is there a problem? So they went to Formula One again, and Formula One again said no, there's not a problem, because they were confident in their measurements. It's only afterwards that they looked again at their measurements that they realised they'd got it wrong. But more concerning than that, I think, is that I think teams consistently going to the FIA and Formula One saying there's something wrong here, you're going to get yourselves in a problem, and it being dismissed, that's the wrong attitude. And that's, I think, the fundamental issue here, which can be fixed more easily than the end result, which is the wrong championship positions have come about as a consequence of an error by official. Now, of course, it's not as severe as Abu Dhabi 2021, when Lewis Hamilton lost the World Championship as a consequence of it, but it is still quite serious, because George Russell could still potentially lose this World Championship for it.
Should they have... Because obviously Alpine lodged the appeal and then won initially to get back into the podium position.
Technically, it was a right of review. I know what you mean. Yeah.
But in which case they shouldn't have even acted on that, because it makes it even more messy. Because you can't. What happened is messy, and you can't. Really
you can make an argument that they've already got themselves in a mess.
Exactly.
There's definitely an argument that by just giving Gasly that place back makes it worse, not better. Because the race result as it was, with him in 7th wasn't fair, but with him in 3rd it's not fair either. He should be like 4th or 5th. I can't remember exactly how the sequence was. You could easily go back to what the race order was before the penalty started to be served. Whatever that race order was, which was either Russell, Piastri, Hadjar, Gasly, or Russell, Piastri, Gasly, Hadjar, I can't remember, whichever one. That's the correct race result from 3rd downwards. But so whatever they've done from now, having forced Russell to take a drive-through, they've screwed it up.
I think at this stage, I think you just have to own it and say,
is it going to be a live and learn type
it was a mistake,
situation?
and learn on the operational side more. So to be susceptible to what the teams are saying when there's clearly an issue going on.
They have to own it, but at what point do they own it? What do they do with the Gasly reversion? Do they go back to? I mean,
what 7th place? And
no, but I think the argument is you could probably make an argument to say, well, no, what do you do?
Well,
because
exactly.
He was third, but he shouldn't have been third because Piastri was only fourth because he served the penalty that Gasly didn't serve, which Piastri shouldn't have had and Gasly shouldn't have had either.
Have we got a week in the calendar to rerun the Monaco Grand Prix? Could we do that and just null all the points and go, you know what, we'll go again?
Sounds great.
Same qualifying order, though.
Yeah.
Go. You're getting into messy territory here, but you're right. We could look back at the Monaco weekend as a defining moment for where a championship could be won or lost, and that's the realities of it. But mistakes do happen. But when you're at the top of a sport, at the absolute pinnacle, that can have huge consequences.
I think the difference here for me is that it's one thing, okay, they've now got VAR in football, but it's one thing a football or rugby referee making a wrong call on a incident for a penalty or a collision in rugby or whatever, and a lot of rugby collisions, for example, whether someone gets a yellow card or not, they're also, a lot of them are subjective with head contacts and stuff. This isn't like that. This is a black and white thing. The officials messed up, and it could have been corrected earlier. It's really hard to see what the consequence of it is.
Really, it would have just been nice if all the teams and drivers who've got penalties just refused to take them. That would have made life easier.
Yeah.
Well,
but then it makes it more complicated when most of them did, bar one.
Well, there's another can of worms here which we've not even looked at, which is that some of these penalties can't be appealed technically during a race. And pit lane speeding is one of them. It's treated as a slam dunk basically. There's a whole category of penalties that you can get on a sporting basis that you just can't appeal whatever you want to do. So if there's a scenario, there's a consequence of this where teams could decide, well, do you know what, I don't believe you, I'm not going to take this penalty that you've given me for a yellow flag infringement, for example. I'm going to ignore it, and I'm going to go to the stewards room after the race and argue it with you, and you just end up with this much worse situation. Norris has had a spin up there at turn 3. A much worse situation where it almost becomes lawlessness. Now, it probably won't end up being like that, but that's the risk.
Well, I mean, this will be a continued conversation, won't it, until we get any kind of updates from the FIA and the teams on that front. But so that's the latest then on the ongoing situation around the Monaco Grand Prix. Back on track then, as Andrew just mentioned, a momentary spin and a bump over the big yellow sausage curb for Lando Norris. Yeah, well, yeah, God, of course you. I feel like injured yourself is a bit of a disservice to say to yourself. Broke your back, right?
Yeah, over a sausage curb. They were a little bit higher than those ones, though. To be fair, the ones in Austria are not too bad, and they run concurrently with the track as well. But yeah, it just looked like the McLaren there just didn't have any rear compliance with the car. It just looked like Norris felt comfortable enough to try and carry that extra bit of minimum speed through the corner and just lost the rear and span off on the exit.
Abby, I'm a bit surprised to see those sausage curbs there, because I thought after your incident they were going to be basically eradicated.
Yeah, they removed them on some tracks, but the ones that kind of run with the circuit, they've remained in a lot of the circuits around the world. The ones that I ended up having an argument with were kind of perpendicular to the circuit in COTA in Circuit of the Americas.
Turn 1, right?
No, it was exit of turn 15.
Oh, right.
So one of the slower corners on the track. But they've been removed, and they were removed actually the following day. Because I remember it was Vettel and Alonso actually kicked off about it and said, look, we're not racing unless you guys remove these sausage curbs, because not only did I break my back, but another kid in F4 broke his back as well on the following race. So yeah, lessons learned, but took two spinal injuries to get there. But again, one of those situations where we kind of live and learn, and thankfully both myself and the other driver made a full recovery.
And it's good to see you here with us.
Thanks, Harry. You are too kind.
I know. 35 minutes, 57, 56, 55 seconds remaining of free practice. Norris is still quickest with a 1 minute 8 dead on the medium tyre. He's now come back into the pits. Antonelli second, a tenth away. Piastri, Russell, Verstappen the top 5.
I'm just going to pick up on this again. I get the theory behind what you've just described as to the decisions the officials have made, but to me that doesn't work in practice, because those yellow curbs that we're talking about are on the exit of turn 3, running along, parallel with the direction of the track, basically, just on the exit of just over the white line. But because it's a hairpin, if you spin like Norris did there, or going sideways, then they're suddenly not in the direction of the circuit anymore. You're going over them at an angle, and you're going to get launched like Norris just did, not very high. But you could have a situation where, as we've seen before at turn 3, a car loses its brakes, for example, spins across the entry to the corner, hits those curbs broadside, and gets launched. So you could still potentially have the same problem.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of, it's all well and good until you get that perfect storm where it's all the kind of things that all add up together to give you, potentially an incident where someone can get launched into another car. I think what's good with these ones when you make the corner is actually you can, if you run up to them, you can kind of bounce back off them a little bit. But I think with track limits round here, if you touch the yellow line at all, that's counted as a track limit. So I think it's any contact with the yellow sausage curbs, and then that's basically your lap time deleted. But yeah, I think there are still, as we all know, we all get bored about talking about track limits, but I think there's still some progress that needs to be made in terms of controlling it without numbing the racing and having all that boring nonsense of having to give a place back.
No, everyone wants to see wheel-to-wheel racing continuously at the end of the day. Antonelli has just gone fastest of anybody by over 0.3 of a second, a 1:07.657 for the Mercedes driver, who is fastest in the first and the final sectors. Lando Norris fastest of anybody in the middle sector. Antonelli then ahead of Norris, Piastri, Russell and Leclerc. Verstappen 6th ahead of Hamilton. Hadjar, Lindblad and Lawson make up the top 10, with Behrman, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Bortoletto and Albon in 15th ahead of Colapinto. Ocon is 17th, then comes Sainz, Bottas, Stroll and Alonso. Perez off track and having to pull to the side of the road. His Cadillac car stranded there, and Checo has now made it back to the Cadillac pits.
Interestingly enough, sorry, Benson.
There you go.
When you see the corners that are lined with gravel, there's no track limits infringements there.
Yeah.
Funny that, isn't it?
Weird, isn't it? Self-policing.
But that's the whole point. So we're just seeing a shot of Max Verstappen completing his lap and going nowhere in particular. He's lying 6th at the moment. Through turns 9 and 10, or 7 and 8 as they should, 6 and 7 as they should be called. Rindt, the curve is the first one of those. There was a problem there with sausage curves for quite a few years, and there was lots of track limits offences.
Smoke in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry about that, mate.
Another problem for a Cadillac.
what is going on with Cadillac? Is it their upgrades? That car is dragging its floor onto the asphalt, and sparks just continuously flying from the underneath of that Cadillac.
So yeah, just to finish the point, they've put gravel on just on the outside of the curb on those final two corners, and that's solved the sausage curb problem.
Just a little strip of it, isn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, because and then there's more asphalt on the outside of that. Why they can't do that at turn 3 as well, I don't know.
There must be a sensible reason, surely.
Well, you'd say that, but we just spent 5 minutes talking about Monaco, didn't we?
I'm being sarcastic.
Bottas continues to slowly make his way back to the pit lane, and not been a very clean start for Cadillac so far on Friday's running.
So we're about to see, they're all in the pits basically, and they're going to start doing their soft tyre qualifying simulation runs, but I just want to make an observation, and I don't want to, hopefully I'm not being too premature. I just think so far Kimi Antonelli has looked particularly strong this weekend in that Mercedes, and he looks like he's had an edge over Russell, as well as all the other cars at the moment after the first runs on the mediums, which they might not have the same fuel loads as each other in, although the teams tend to do similar programs through the P2 sessions with a medium tyre sort of setup run with some fuel in it, followed by a qualifying simulation run, followed by race simulations. He's 3.34 seconds quicker than Lando Norris's McLaren, with Oscar Piastri third and Russell fourth, half a second behind. I don't suppose it'll be half a second between Antonelli and Russell, but it just continues this initial impression that Antonelli and Mercedes look strong again this weekend, and the Ferraris, by contrast, are not looking that competitive so far today.
Well, making it back to the pit lane and a flurry of smoke, the fire extinguishers get to work, and I think that floor, on fire, quite literally.
Toast.
Bit burnt for my liking. On the underside of that Cadillac, but it's made it back, and Hulkenberg is first out on the soft tyre, along with Alex Albon in the Williams, who is making his way around the final corner now. Now the all-time starter of Grand Prix for Williams, exceeding Nigel Mansell's record last time out. 97th start this weekend for Albon with that team, hoping to enjoy a more competitive run of it, but it's still looking a bit bleak for Williams right now.
There's a bit of a pace difference between Leclerc and Hamilton at the moment as well. So Hamilton's 4 tenths behind Leclerc on the medium run pace. Now, I wonder whether some drivers went out and started to prep to do their push lap when the virtual safety car came out. So potentially, again, the laps have been put in just slightly out of sync. But that's a big deficit for Hamilton on his teammate.
Yeah, well, Hamilton wasn't particularly happy, was he, in FP1? It's a little adrift on time. But you know what? This is sort of what we saw in Barcelona. Wasn't particularly happy in FP1. And then,
he's sandbagging.
and then suddenly it came good for him. But at the moment then, Hamilton is out on track. Leclerc in the pits as Piastri's trying to find a bit of clear track, but he has a Lance Stroll Aston Martin getting in the way, and then finds himself a bit of clear air to start. A run on the soft tyre. Across the line for Piastri.
Running on board with Piastri, you can see as you come up to turn 1, super late and hard on the brakes. Gets a little bit of complaining from the rear of the car, but manages to keep it within the track limits. And again, past turn 2, on the way down into turn 3, again another super heavy braking zone. Slightly wide on entry here, and he is actually favouring to take the apex there. Some drivers actually miss it to avoid the big old bump that you have that sometimes can aid in locking the front right tyre, but the car looks pretty compliant through there.
Downhill braking into the right-hander of turn 4, almost invites you out on the exit, isn't it, towards the gravel, and then you're trying to bring the car back over to the right-hand side to set yourself up for the long left-hander of turn 6. Again, the gravel waiting to meet you on the exit before you sling it through the left-hander of 7, flicks you out through the right-hander of 8. It's a short blast towards the final 2 corners then. Quick right-hand flick of the steering wheel through turn 9, pit lane entry to your right. Piastri stays planted within the white lines round the final corner. Straight line mode activates, the front and the rear wings open on the soft tyre, goes fastest by 4 tenths of a second. A 107.251, fastest of anybody through the middle and the final sectors for the Australian.
The car looked pretty compliant there, to be fair. And actually what you don't see with the onboard cameras is when you drop into turn 6, that's blind, so you're turning in, you can't see your apex, you can't see your exit, and yeah, the commitment was there as we see Hamilton chucking the Ferrari around, and a couple of green sectors for him on his first soft run.
3-time pole sitter here, 2-time winner at this circuit is Lewis Hamilton. On the soft tyre now for Ferrari. What's he got across the line? He pops himself up into second with a 107.6, about 3.5 tenths off the McLaren of Piastri. So Hamilton then still looking for a bit more time.
Yeah, that's a big gap for Ferrari. You know, they've probably not got the engine turned up all the way. In fact, almost certainly you would save that for qualifying, but neither will the others presumably either. So 3.5 tenths or just over. Not what Ferrari would have wanted at this stage as we ride on board with Lando Norris coming into the interesting part of the lap.
Through the blind left-hander, as you say, Abby of turn 6 runs a little bit out wide, picks up a bit of gravel, sparks flying, should have a bit of clear track ahead of him. Coming into the final 2 quarters, the sun beats down and reflects off the papaya of that McLaren. And we'll see what Norris has got. Currently down in 4th on the medium tyre. Now with the soft, pops himself up into 2nd, just shy of a tenth between himself and his teammate Piastri, who stays fastest.
Looked like he lost some time in the last sector there, didn't he? Because he was up on Piastri by what, a tenth and a bit after sector 2. So I don't know what happened in the last 2 corners.
Yeah, he's got the fastest middle sector, Norris.
I think there was a little bit of margin available there on the exit of turn 9, so potentially just a little bit of conservative driving going on, just to get a bit of a banker lap in and see what the car can do.
We'll now see what the Mercedes have as well. New batteries for the 2 Mercedes drivers this weekend in an effort to combat the reliability issues that they've been having along with their customer teams, but not everyone getting the new batteries. Both Mercedes, both Alpines, Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, and Carlos Sainz in the Williams, and that's due to the various states that Lando Norris has only got 1 battery left anyway, which he's running on at the moment while they try and fix the other one, and the same too with Alex Albon in terms of their allowance for this year. But we'll get a comparison then of where the Mercedes stand. Kimi Antonelli first to cut the beam, fastest of anybody in the final sector with a 1:07.209, puts himself to the top of the times. Russell can't match his teammate in the first and middle sector. Let's see what he's got through the final sector. Out the final corner now for George Russell. Where's this going to put him? Loses a fair chunk of time in that final sector. Did Russell make a bit of a mistake there? Because
he had a wobble coming out of the final corner, but that didn't account for, he's a half a second off just as he was on the mediums. That definitely doesn't account for all of that.
No. Stays 5th, does Russell, behind Hamilton and the 2 McLaren. Charles Leclerc next to the front runners to put that soft tyre on. He's about 2.5 tenths down on Antonelli's time as we come through the middle sector. His Ferrari teammate 4th. Let's see where this puts Charles Leclerc, looking to bounce back after 2 back-to-back retirements in Formula 1. To the line for Charles Leclerc, and it's lighting up timing screen. Stays 6th.
He did drop the wheel slightly going through turn 7, which will have cost him. That compromises your line through all the way the run down to turn 9. And interestingly, when we were on board with George Russell, certainly the last sector, it looked like he was not confident with the car. He wasn't really throwing the car around all that much, and it looked like he was a bit hesitant with the car. As we ride on board with Hulkenberg, currently in 11th over the line, stays 11th. So a bit of work to do on these upgrades with Audi.
Connor Pinto slides out of the final corner, thinking he's on a rally course with the gravel there, and does set a personal best, but it's only enough for 16th at the moment down for Alpine, who themselves say they are struggling in general on 1 lap pace, but make up for it in the race. But they need to improve that side of things. Doing well on 1 lap pace continually are the Racing Bulls. Lawson up in 7th, having just crossed the line. Lindblad in 9th. Looking good so far in that battle in the midfield is the junior Red Bull outfit. So after those soft tyre runs then, it's Antonelli who leads the way by just under half a tenth of a second to Oscar Piastri. Norris in 3rd, Hamilton 4 tenths adrift. And I think Hamilton's just had a bit of an off at the top of the hill at turn 3. We have just cut to him on board, but rather late in the day, but his tyres are covered in gravel. So I'm sure we'll get a replay imminently, and we do. Let's have a look at this then. On brakes, lock up for the front right, which sends him straight and just picks up a bunch of muck offline.
It's so easy to do, turn 1, turn 3, you are really standing on that brake pedal, and if you haven't got the confidence to absolutely nail it and know that your tyres are within the window, know that the thing is going to slow down, locking a front tyre is super common in turn 3.
I've got some insight to bring you from Cadillac once again. Both cars now recovered in the garage, and they're looking into everything. Unlikely to go out again this session. So that's a shame for Cadillac, who are running a raft of upgrades this weekend, but it's been a tough Friday for them so far. So neither Perez or Bottas expected to re-emerge in the 21 minutes that we have remaining. More soft tyre running still to come though. This is the sound of Lando Norris, who has the fastest middle sector, not on this lap, and actually has a big snap coming through the right-hander of turn 8, and that's going to lose in time as he comes through the final 2 sectors. I think he is still pushing, bit of traffic to contend with as well, but he'll see it to the line, but I think he would have lost too much time, and yes he does, so it doesn't improve on that. A lap around 3 tenths down in fact.
And interestingly enough, his previous lap queue there, he had a similar drop of the wheel going through the same corner. So maybe just wants a little bit more front end on the initial turn-in. If we're on board with him now, you can see it complains at the front and has a snap oversteer on the exit as a result.
The Aston Martin ahead of him, would that have caused anything as well? Bit of
Certainly
turbulence?
wouldn't have helped, yeah, but the similar thing happened on the previous lap. So I think that's more setup related or compliance from the car rather than the dirty air.
So Antonelli then looking quick once again after his retirement that saw him lose a podium place in Barcelona a couple of weeks ago, and crucially lose out on extending his gap at the top of the championship. Although I think I read somewhere that Antonelli can go on holiday for this race and the next race and come back and only be 7 points down in the Drivers' Championship, which just kind of underlines how impressive this young man has been so far in his second season of Formula One. The rate of improvement has been very impressive.
I mean, I'm not sure about the maths of that one, but because it's 41 points and you get 25 for a win, and Hamilton wins 2 races, you get 50. That would make him 9 points behind, wouldn't it?
Okay, we'll couple out.
Yeah. Thank goodness you're here to fact check.
What's 2 points? What's 2 points between Collins?
Hamilton's not going to win the next 2 races, is he? Probably.
But the point I'm trying to make is
he's got a big lead.
Yeah,
which is why I was trying to say to you earlier that
it's too early.
It's too early to say Hamilton's the title contender.
You got to sell it, Benny. Got to sell the Formula One season.
Facts.
But this is,
as someone famous once said, facts not words.
Yeah, but
do you know who said that?
No, I don't actually.
Fernando Alonso.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Don't let truth get in the way of a good story, huh?
I feel like that would be a good tattoo. Have you got that tattooed anywhere?
Me or him?
You. Facts, not words. Yes, but this is also Formula One, and things happen.
For me, it'll be facts and words, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be actually. Yeah, you're right. But this is Formula One, and anything really can happen. Suddenly, just when you think it's trending one way, all it takes is for one slip, one chaotic race, weather. There is a bit of rain expected for Sunday, actually, with the hot temperatures creating humid conditions and the potential for a bit of heavy rain. That could spice things up quite nicely. We've still not... Have we seen these cars properly in wet conditions yet?
Yes.
What race did we see that in?
It rained in Canada at one point, didn't it?
Yes. Yes, it did. But did it rain in the race?
Can't remember when.
I'm not sure. We'll have to double check that. But either way, it's still a huge challenge for especially these new cars to be dealt with when you get some potential torrential conditions out there. Just under 20 minutes left of the session so far.
It rained before the race in Canada because that led to McLaren's crazy tyre decision.
Yes.
So do you think? So I don't
it didn't
think
actually start in the wet, did it?
So yeah, yes, because of course because the McLarens went on the intermediates, and then they got rid of them. So it actually hasn't. Australia, no. China, no. Japan, no. Miami didn't rain, did it?
Nope.
No, because we thought it was going to rain and we moved it early and then nothing happened.
Well, we didn't move it early.
Well,
Formula One did, but
facts, not words. Canada, no. Just before. Monaco, no. Yeah, so it could be. It could be. It's due. It could be the first time we see Formula One cars in anger in wet conditions on the Sunday.
And when it rains in Austria, it tends to really rain. Do you remember the 2020 race, the second race in 2020, the Hamilton one?
Yeah, especially when you're in the mountains here as well. Conditions can change quite quickly. It's almost a bit of a microclimate that develops. When did Alonso say facts, not words?
I can't remember. There's just so many great Fernando Alonso quotes, are there?
Was it 2012 after he lost the championship to Vettel?
I honestly can't remember.
That's what my producer is telling me in my ear.
I don't think it was then. No.
Is he trustworthy?
No, definitely not.
Absolutely not.
That's him trying to wind me up by Harry.
The only thing I remember from, well, actually I remember a lot of things from that year, but the 2012 Brazil race and the stare from Fernando Alonso after the race, just looking into the distance that the camera had on the close-up, that'll go down in history. Talk of Alonso, currently down in 19th and in the pits with just over 15 minutes left of this session. So we've seen some soft tyre running then, and it is looking good for Antonelli, certainly. And McLaren seem to have picked up a little bit of form in this session. Red Bull, this is the sound of Isaac Hadjar. Better session so far in the fact they're out there running, but coming through turn 3, all crossed up.
You see, this is the story of turn 3 today. Like, what was that again?
Yeah, copy me. We'll have a look.
What was that, Abby? He turned in and then just, well, we're going to get an off-board camera look. So he turns in for turn 3. It's almost like he struggles for power on the exit.
Look what happened there on the apex turn 3 with the engine. That's what happens on the first stop as well. To open RPM. It's weird.
Copy that.
There is a drop in RPM. That's what Max Verstappen just said, and he had the exact same issue. So it does look like it's really struggling on the exit there. How bizarre.
I wonder if it's something to do with the turbo size. Is it the Red Bull? Do they run the bigger turbo, or is that relatively?
I think it's more that. I don't know the exact dimensions of the turbos. My understanding is that the biggest turbo is in the Audi,
right,
and the smallest turbo is in the Ferrari.
Yeah.
Where the others sit in the middle, I don't know exactly. I think the more of them, the others are more trending towards the Audi end than the Ferrari. The Ferrari one's particularly small, which is why they were making those good starts at the beginning of the year, and why Fred Vasseur, the team principal, was so upset when they modified the start procedure rules to stop the others having problems, because he saw that as a design choice that they'd made. I would argue that for all the design choices they made about good starts, they were still losing the races because the car wasn't quick enough at that point. But anyway.
And the onboard with Hadjar through turn 3, again, just rear compliance from the car, and it's a really tricky corner. It looks on paper like it's straightforward, but the rise and the crest you get just as you're approaching the apex, if you haven't got the grip in the rear of the car and the grip in that rear tyre, it will just want to over-rotate on you. And we saw that earlier on with Lando Norris almost having a carbon copy of Hadjar with the same issue.
Piastri out there at the moment in the McLaren through the right-hander of 3. Doesn't look like he's got the same issues that the Red Bulls are currently struggling with. Piastri now, having done his soft tyre run, back out there on the medium. We have got the softest tyres in the range this weekend. In terms of what happened last year with the race-winning strategy, Lando Norris took the medium all the way to lap 20, then stuck on the hard until lap 52, and then put on the medium again. But I wonder if the temperatures are going to be as high as we're expecting to be. You know, equal with Barcelona a couple of weeks ago. We could well be talking 2-3 stops all of a sudden once again for Sunday's Grand Prix, which could spice things up nicely and lead to some strategic nuances up and down the field.
Especially with a short pit lane, I think it will open up various opportunities for different strategists to, kind of stretch their legs and see what opportunities they can find to undercut. And just looking at order of play at the moment, so Antonelli is in front. Now, Russell's down in 6th at the moment, 6/10 off his teammate. He's not going to be happy with that. And scratching head wide, to be fair. I know when we watched the onboard, he looked maybe a little bit tentative with the car, but I wouldn't imagine there should be a gap like that between the two teammates.
No, I think, he had obviously a bit of a messy final sector, but Russell, as you say, won't be particularly pleased to see that gap there, and Hamilton, Verstappen and Norris and Piastri separating him and his teammate. Hamilton out there reporting too much understeer on board his Ferrari, who's currently 5th, but ahead of teammate Leclerc. And heading downhill now into turn 4. The front and rear wings both close under braking. Turns it into the right-hander, carves his way right, back into the sunshine that glints off the Scarlet Ferrari through the left-hander of turn 6. Looks nice and smooth. And on a race data gathering lap for Hamilton on the medium tyre.
Understeer is going to be the enemy around a circuit like this. You know, you really want a car that direction changes really efficiently, really quickly, so then you can open up that throttle as early as possible and get the drive. You know, you want to be hitting 100% throttle as early as possible, and understeer is either going to scrub the speed and it's going to hinder how quickly you can get on the gas.
As he continues on his way off the back of winning the Barcelona Grand Prix by the largest winning margin of the 2026 season.
If you're going to do it, you've got to do it properly.
Yeah, nearly 20 seconds, wasn't it? Incredible. For the 7-time world champion.
That's one of those lies, damn lies and statistics things, because Antonelli's win in Monaco would have been much bigger without the safety car, wouldn't it? Because he was 20 odd seconds in front before that.
Facts, not words, Benson. Facts, not words. I'm going to get that tattooed. Just over 10 and a half minutes.
Turns out it was 2012 he said it in.
Was it? Is that, have you been doing some fact checking?
Paddy, the producer, sent me a message.
He's actually got that right.
Well, ChatGPT says that anyway. So. Apparently there are other AI services available as well. So
can we get an AI producer? I didn't like that, did you?
Do they make good cups of tea?
Oh. Well, we shall find out, but we're getting rapidly towards the end of Friday's running here, and certainly it looks like it is Kimi Antonelli who has all the confidence in the world, now doing some long run data gathering. We'll have another practice session tomorrow morning. You can hear that over on Sports Extra 3 from about 11:30 in the morning, before we have that all-important qualifying, which we will be on 5 Live for, just ahead of the green light coming on at the end of the pit lane for 3 o'clock. And race day, 71 laps around the Red Bull Ring, available to you on BBC Radio 5 Live, lights out from 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Bortoletto's done a half decent time as well, 10th at the moment.
Yeah.
His teammate.
Hulkenberg's down in 14th.
10th behind.
Yeah, Gabi Bortoletto, 1.2 seconds off. Well, this is where Bortoletto qualified 8th last year. It was his first Q3 appearance and points in Formula 1 last year. Really good drive from Bortoletto, who's won here in the feeder series. And you just feel like Audi are... Well, here's Verstappen first.
Yeah, lovely lag again.
Understood.
That turbo lag really affecting the Red Bull's drivability this weekend, as Verstappen continues to put in the laps. But just coming back to Audi, just feels like they're in need of a good result. They've been right on the periphery. As we mentioned in FP1, luck's certainly not been on their side, reliability hasn't been on their side, but overall I think what they've done this year, yes, the chassis side is sort of the remnants out of the old Sauber team, but the engine brand new from Audi as a works customer, I think what they've done is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, looking on the results so far on free practice 2, they're making a little bit more of a step forward here. And it's not going to be easy coming into a season like this. Yes, it's different for everyone with the reg changes, and but they'll be so motivated to try and make that impact as early as possible. And you could argue and say, well, if Audi are able to do such a thing, then you would hope that Cadillac could kind of follow in the coattails of them. But so far Audi's coming out on top with the newbies.
Yeah, of course, Cadillac building their car from scratch, but taking a Ferrari engine, although General Motors, the overall owners of Cadillac, are expected to be bringing their bespoke power unit from 2029, approximately.
I don't know why they'd design an engine for 1 year if the engine regulations are changing, if the engine regulations are changing.
Well, okay, that's a good point. Well, that was the initial plan, as Max Verstappen slides out of the final corner, and the right bit of carbon fibre off the back.
Bit of weight shedding.
Maybe that's the ballast from the cooling vest. A heat hazard declared for this weekend, and if you don't wear your various tubes underneath your overalls, you have to carry 5 kilos of ballast.
I don't know why anyone wouldn't bother just wearing it. it makes a slight difference. Once you get hot, actually, you can't really feel it, but it just keeps your core temperature down that little bit more, and ultimately...
I believe when they were trying it last year, I believe it was more of it was just a comfort thing, that it was just uncomfortable to wear.
Right.
The pipes, it wasn't sitting very well between the driver and the seat, and just a bit clunky. I think that was the main issue. And then some people said it didn't quite work. That was when it was still in this trial phase. They were saying it wasn't working. At one point, it was just hot fluid.
Yeah, it does get to that point.
Made me warmer, if anything.
It's basically just pipes that are kind of woven into the Nomex that kind of run up and down. And when you, like we mentioned earlier on about seating position, and if your seat's not quite right, you do get those pressure points in the car. You're strapped into the point where you almost can't breathe. You want to be locked into that seat as tight as possible. And I can understand potentially why some drivers would prefer without, but if it's that, I'll carry in some lead around the track. I think I'd probably prefer to be slightly cooler.
I think I would agree with you as well. So just having a sort of reflection then on how the tyres are holding up. Let's see what Hajar's saying.
I need the car to give me power, man, because otherwise I'm going to get overtaken. Then we're
So Hajar wants more power, otherwise he does not fancy their chances in the race. 1 lap pace at the moment is a couple of tenths of his teammate, and that's enough to split 4th and 7th. 4th where Verstappen is at the moment. But from some of the runs we've seen, it looks like when it comes to qualifying, you could get 2 push laps out of it. As Lando Norris finds the runoff down at turn 3. So some drivers I reckon could get 2 push laps from a set of the soft tyres if needed, but Q3, like we saw in Barcelona, it might be only 1 flying lap or nothing, just at the rate of that thermal degradation.
I wonder whether with Hajar complaining about the power, whether he's complaining more exit of corner or just before in the braking zone, whether the car's kind of clipping early, or because I think actually energy management around here is going to be super important. You've obviously got a track of 2 halves, as we all know, some super long straights into the heavy braking, and you don't really get any chance to kind of lift off and coast until you get into the latter part of sector 2 and into sector 3. So I think that will play a part as well with driver on board maximising the energy of the car.
Yeah, and coming back, we mentioned it at the start, the altitude issue. We're 660 metres above sea level, so you've got thinner air, and that kind of drop in air density surely means the turbos of the car, of the engines, have to compensate by spinning faster to sort of force more air into the engine. So we've not actually seen these new engines deal with this kind of factor yet, because it's not normally until we get to Mexico that we start talking about altitude. So whereas previously the MGU-H that we've got rid of would have kind of solved those issues, I just wonder if maybe that's also another factor that's affecting Red Bull in particular, it seems, where the turbo is just struggling with the lower air density.
Yeah, definitely, and I think potentially some of the other teams could start complaining about this in the race. It's okay when you're out in a non-pressure environment in P1, P2, that you don't, it's not quite as much of a deficit. Whereas if you're in the tail of someone trying to follow them and trying to make a move on them, if you're putting your foot to throttle and it's having a moment to think about it, that can be incredibly frustrating. And I think really, as you say, when we get to Mexico and Interlagos, we'll see how the engine's able to deal with the lack of air even more so.
Yeah, 660 metres above sea level here, about 65 metre elevation change over a whole lap, and with just a couple of minutes on the board, Charles Leclerc bails out of the final 2 corners. Kimi Antonelli with the soft tyre running, quickest overall by 0.2 of a second, a 1:7.014. Ahead of Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris 3rd, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton the top 5. Then it's George Russell in 6th, ahead of Isaac Hadjar. Leclerc, Lawson and Bortoletto make up the top 10. Just outside is Pierre Gasly. Arvid Lindblad in 12th, ahead of Behrman and Hulkenberg, the top 14. Then it's Esteban Ocon in 15th, ahead of Franco Colapinto. Alex Albon 17th, Carlos Sainz 18th, Fernando Alonso in 19th, with Lance Stroll 20th on the track. Valtteri Bottas 21st, Prost and Sergio Perez didn't get a lap on the board. Both Cadillacs with issues out there. Both cars are now back in the garage. However, we will not be seeing them return to the track as Cadillac continue to work on the issues plaguing both of their cars.
Now, every so often, broadcasting produces a moment that goes down in history. And I suspect we're about to witness another one right now.
Long Run Corner with Andrew Benson.
Well, I'm not sure I can live up to that grandiose introduction, Abby, but we do have some interesting numbers from Long Run Corner today. Fortunately, for once, all the leading cars and drivers are out on the same tyre, the medium. And if I compare like for like over the same length of run, the fastest driver on a race run is Lando Norris. Yeah, he's about 400ths of a second on average quicker than Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes, with Russell snapping at Antonelli's heels, only 100th of a second behind, and Piastri's McLaren third. The Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton is about 3.5 tenths off the pace and more or less the same lap time as Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. So McLaren do look like they're back at the front, as they've looked. You know, that's been the general impression today. They've looked much more competitive, and these race runs, which are generally a pretty good, reliable indicator of actual competitive pace, would suggest that they're right in the fight with Mercedes at the front.
Is that more words or facts?
That's facts. These are numbers, Harry. Mathematical numbers.
Thank you, Andrew.
Whether it's the same tomorrow is a different question. But today, McLaren are the fastest on a race run with Lando Norris.
Facts and words and Long Run Corner from the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson as the clock counts down to 0, and that is free practice 2. Done and dusted. Hadjar is first to take the flag. Hülkenberg and Behrman follow, and the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli will be next, and he will once again top the session. It's been a day over one lap, certainly, for Kimi Antonelli, looking quick for qualifying ahead of Saturday. A 1:07.014. Looking good, but the two McLarens just behind, Abby.
Back in the mix with things, I think, and actually they both drivers, both Oscar and Lando, both looking really comfortable in the car. Not heard many complaints from them. A lot of other drivers have been flat out complaining about stability or confidence in the brake pedal, and a bit of a push on the front of the cars as well. But no, those McLarens are looking really comfortable, and as Andrews said there, actually looking like the quickest car at the moment, race pace wise, on the circuit.
Yeah, and what about Red Bull? Back Max Verstappen 4th, Hadjar 7th, clearly struggling out there. What can they do overnight?
Well, get his seat comfortable to start with. Get comfortably in the car, as we hear from Norris.
And can we cool the brakes from there? Please cool the brakes.
Yeah, I think some brakes have been on fire for like 5 laps.
Nonchalantly.
Yeah, they are hot.
As you'd expect around a circuit like this, some heavy braking zones. But yeah, back to Red Bull. A little bit of pace to find. Now, obviously, they brought in the upgrades for this round, so potentially just not getting on board with them as much as they hoped they'd be.
No, Verstappen 4th, Hadjar 7th, Hamilton and Leclerc 5th and 8th. It's not actually been smooth sailing for them either. I think we might have expected a little bit more yet, or are they keeping their cards close to their chest?
Well, as you said, it was similar in Barcelona in terms of that outright pace from Hamilton. Didn't really come until qualifying, but I'd say they're probably a little bit further adrift than they were in Barcelona. And again, I think we'll not really see whether the upgrades via the engine are positive until we get a little bit later down the line, a little bit more running in the car.
Well, the practice starts are ensuing. Here's Liam Lawson.
It smells terrible in here, like brakes and hotness.
Brakes and hotness for Liam Lawson.
Race and driver lingo.
Yeah, not particularly happy out there, running a little bit long in his box before the practice starts happen. This isn't all the F1 action you can get for today. You could head to BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts and listen to our checkered flag preview of the weekend, where myself, Abby and Andrew get stuck into all the big talking points. We actually did our predictions of who was going to win this race. Having seen now FP1 and FP2, Abby, you sticking by your prediction?
I am. I said it was boring and I was agreeing with Andrew, and I'm going to stick with it. So I'm going to go Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, you both went with Kimi Antonelli. It's a thumbs up from Andrew. Andrew as well. I actually went for Lewis Hamilton. I may now start to question that. So maybe if we could do a bit of an edit for the podcast, that would be great.
I think someone had to go for Hamilton.
I'd say I'm probably going to predict as well Kimi Antonelli for the win on Sunday.
Sensible.
Just doing that in isolation so we can edit that into the podcast. Thank you, everybody. But that will be on BBC Sounds for you to go and enjoy as Hamilton gets away on his practice start. Anyone stand out for you in the midfield, Abby?
I think, to be honest, in this session particularly, the Audis. Bortoleto, I think, coming home in 10th there, 10th quickest time. I think it's pretty impressive. Yeah, Bortoleto got his first top 10 starts and points here a year ago for Sauber, as they were once called. Returns here for Audi, looking to try and get his first point score since round 1 in Australia. And his teammate, Nico Hülkenberg, still yet to score a point, is the German, as the Styrian Hills begin to fall silent after Friday's running for the Austrian Grand Prix. Antonelli faster than Piastri, Norris, Verstappen, Hamilton the top 5 with Russell, Hadjar, Leclerc, Lawson and Bortoleto the top 10, Gasly, Lindblad, Behrmann, Hülkenberg and Ocon the top 15, with Colapinto, Albon, Sainz, Alonso and Stroll the top 20. Trouble for Bottas and Perez, both Cadillacs with issues to be working on ahead of Saturday's running. Thank you very much, Andrew Benson. Thank you very much, Abby Eaton. Go listen to the podcast on BBC Sounds. Just search F1 and then come back for us here, FP3, over on Sports Extra 3 tomorrow, just before 11:30 on qualifying day later on in the afternoon on 5 Live.